What's up, everybody? Today, we're going to talk about the Washington Wizards made a two-way player signing today. We're going to look at the starting unit and the second unit and what the depth chart how it's going to look like going into the regular season. And we're going to talk about the Summer League and some stats on Johnny Davis and Bilal Coulibaly next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Brennan Scott again with my guy, the real Ed Oliver. Thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And we're going to start out. We got a lot to talk about today, but we're going to start out with the Wizards made a signing real quick, and we're going to look at it real quick. They signed, let me pull him up real fast, Eugene Omoruyi on a two-way contract. He is a guy who can shoot and can defend, so he's probably going to start out the year with the Capital City Go-Go. But, real quick, how intrigued are you with this signing with Eugene Omoruyi on a two-way contract?
Yeah, it's an interesting signing. He was in OKC with Will Dawkins. Just look at some of his numbers. 6'6", went to Oregon. I do remember playing against him. The Wizards played against him when he was on the Pistons. And he had a pretty good game. He had 15 points that game. He was cutting to the basket, finishing well around the rim, moving without the ball. He's not an above-the-rim guy. He's kind of not an old-school player, but he kind of feels like an undersized power forward, like a 6'6" power forward out there. But he has a good feel for the game, good touch, does the little things well, runs the floor well, can finish well around the rim, has a mid-range jumper. You look at his shooting numbers, not too high, shoots about 29% from the three, but he did average about, I want to say, looking at it right now, he averaged 9 points a game, 3 boards, and a steal as well. So he has some history there with Will Dawkins. So I think that's the connection right there. And he brings some toughness, man. He plays really physical. He plays hard. Some people compare him to Draymond a little bit, just looking at his build and at his frame, because he's a versatile player. He can pass the ball, has good vision, kind of a solid guy. Like, I'm not going to compare him to Anthony Gill, but, Anthony Gill's kind of solid at everything. And I think Eugene's a guy that's going to be solid at everything. I think he's going to be a good 15th man on some nights, kind of an Iron Man. He looked good with the Thunder, man. He had a couple threes. He had some big games with the Thunder. He had 17 points, a couple games. He had a couple big games. He had some really big games in the G League last year as well. So I think he's an interesting signing. And like I brought up last episode, Anthony Gill is rumored to be some EuroLeague teams contacting Anthony Gill. So I think he could possibly be the Anthony Gill replacement.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. All points, your own point. I think one guy that he kind of reminds me of is the guy that's on the Detroit Pistons who just signed an extension, Isaiah Stewart. Kind of,
yeah.
I don't want to say undersized, but at a guy at a 4 where he can't really play the 5, but he can shoot a mid range. He can rebound, he can defend. So I think it's a really solid move, man. I mean, you can never have too much depth till depth becomes an issue, as we know as far as the Wizards, man. But I completely agree with you. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to.
And one last thing, I'm not gonna say Draymond. I think that was a better comparison to Isaiah Stewart because he is starting to shoot the 3. He's kind of a tweener, right now. So looking at some of the games, you do want to watch some highlights. He had 19 points against the Orlando Magic. He had 11 against Houston, 14 against the Thunder when he was with the Pistons. He had 11 points. He had 17 against us. He had 17 against us. He went 4 for 12, 0 for 5 from the 3. So he's not a great 3-point shooter, but he's capable of doing it. 15 against us again. Both games he had 8 and 15 against us. So he loved to play well against the Wizards, just like a lot of people do. So just an interesting prospect. He's a little bit older than what you usually give guys a two-way contract. He's 26. 26 years old, 6'6", 235 pounds.
Yeah, I think Isaiah Stewart is definitely that comparison, man, because, he's got an offensive game to him, but yet he's scrappy, he can defend, and he can get in there in the paint, get some rebounds. So, no, like I said, before we move on, I think it's a really solid two-way contract, man. Obviously, we still have one vacant spot for a two-way contract, but, between him and Quentin Jackson, they're both intriguing prospects for depth for the
Mhm.
Wizards. So we're gonna move on, man. We're gonna get into what is your starting lineup, and obviously is easier said than done with this roster, man, because we're gonna jump into the second unit, but there's still we both think that there still needs to be a consolidation trade. You still got vets on expiring contracts. So, but looking at this the first unit, who are you going with from your first unit?
This is a tough one. I think the 4 spots are pretty easy. 4 out of 5, and it was kind of the same way last year. Everybody was like, okay, Monte's going to start, Brad's going to start, Porzingis is going to start, Kuz is going to start. So that was easy with the 4, and it was like Denny versus Will Barton. Now this year is Denny versus Corey Kispert, because I think Tyus is going to start. I think Jordan Poole obviously is going to start. Kuz is obviously going to start. I think he's going to start at the 4. I think Gaff is going to start at the 5 default. Due to really default. We don't have any other centers. The only center on the roster is Muscala and Vukcevic. And right now, it's not even 100% that Vukcevic is going to play this year, even though I think he should. They still have some things that they got to do with his contract overseas and whatnot. And maybe Poole could start at point guard. They could think about that. He did play point guard with the Warriors whenever Steph was injured. He did a good job of doing that. He's a good playmaker. But I do think it's going to be Tyus, Jordan Poole. And then if it's up to me, I'm really leaning Corey Kispert. It's really like 55-45% Corey. Only because I know everybody's going to say the defense is going to be atrocious with Tyus, Jordan Poole, and Corey out there, and Kuz at the 4. Kuz is a good defender. Gafford's a solid defender. So the defense would be bad. You probably would give up about 120 points a night. It would be, who can get to 120, 130 at first wins the game. But honestly, whatever lineup you throw out there with this roster right now, it's going to be uphill battle to even make the play-in. I think we're closer to a top 5 pick than even making the play-in with this roster. Any type of lineup you throw out there, that's just the ceiling of this roster right now, because we're still in a rebuilding phase. But personally, I would lean towards Corey, and I think Denny would be better off the bench because he would have more ball handling opportunities off the bench, where Jordan Poole is going to dominate the ball, Kuz is going to dominate the ball, and Tyus Jones is going to dominate the ball. I think with the second unit, that would be better for Denny. And then Corey's a better shooter, so he'd be able to space the floor so Jordan Poole can go to work, Kuz can go to work, Tyus Jones can go to work, and Corey just can cut and move. But I understand for defensive purposes, Denny would start at the 3, Kuz started at the 4. Now, Denny started last year, didn't last too long. Wes Unseld Jr. made changes because, he just wasn't stretching the floor at all. I bring up the game with LeBron James. He wasn't even going out there to guard Denny. Can Denny improve his three-point shot? So that's the deciding factor for me, but it's really it's a coin flip. It really is. If Denny starts, I'm fine with it. If he comes off the bench, I'm fine with it. Either way, is he going to be stuck in a corner with Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma on that starting unit? Would it be better for him to come off the bench and be able to bring the ball up and get rebounds and push rather than him kind of being that 3-and-D role with Kuz, Jordan Poole, and Tyus Jones?
Yeah, I like where you're going with it, man. Yeah, I'm gonna make a switch. I think that I'm gonna start Denny. But I'm gonna get into my starting lineup real quickly. But before we do, today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Birddogs makes you look good. Birddogs has a stretch khaki shorts that are designed to fit slimmer to the thigh and leg that gives you a truly sculpted look. Birddogs shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. They fit way better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Birddogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches, so you get a way slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement, which is big because I'm a big fella, man. So I definitely need some movement, man. So Birddogs uses an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA and enter promo code LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler. I'm trying to tell you, they're pretty dope. That's birddogs.com/LockedOnNBA or promo code LockedOnNBA for a free Yeti style tumbler. You won't want to take your Birddogs off, I promise you. And thank you for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Every day is tomorrow. We are going to recap the 4th Summer League game. I think there's going to be another one, so I'm not going to say last, but we're definitely going to recap the 4th Summer League game and see how these young guys did. So getting back into it, man, my starting 5. And like I said, this is tricky, man, because I still think there's personnel moves that need to be done for the Wizards. But looking at point, yeah, you can argue that Jordan Poole could start at point. I totally agree with that. So I'm going to throw 2 lineups out real quick. First lineup is going to have Tyus Jones starting at point. I'm going to slide in, obviously, Jordan Poole at 2. But I'm going to put in Denny, man. And the reason for that is a couple of factors. One, contract year. He's got to go out there. He's got to start, and he's got to show what he can do as a starter, man. With a contract year, it's kind of 50-50 whether they're going to re-sign him, and it really goes off of him. So that's a big reason why I'm going to start him at the 3. Now I kind of see where you're coming from when it comes to Kispert. The shooting potential, he can spread the floor, but Denny, I want Denny being that guy guarding the best player on the other team. If it's not a center, obviously if it's Embiid out there, he ain't gonna be out there guarding Embiid. But I want Denny out there guarding the best player. So I'm sliding Denny at the 3. 4, Kuzma. I know Kuzma can play the 3, but he played the 3 with the tall lineup when we had Gaff and KP. But I think he's best served at the 4, and obviously my man Gaff at the 5. But looking at a potential Jordan Poole if he starts, if you want a lineup that can score, I'm definitely putting Jordan Poole at the 1, Kispert at the 2. I know the scoring people are gonna get on me, but I'm putting Denny at the 3 because he still got to have some defense. The 4 Kuzma and then 5 Gaff. So yeah, and obviously that second lineup with Jordan Poole starting at the point, you really got to look at the second unit because there's people that need minutes, and that's just where it gets tricky, Ease, because you got guys that we were looking at Muscala, we were looking at Gallo, we were looking at Shamet. There you go. That they were they were possible buyout candidates or trade candidates. You know what I'm saying? But and in the Dame Lillard situation is kind of dragging on, so we don't know if they're going to be part of a trade package or if Gallo and Muscala are going to be buyout candidates. We shall see. So and that's kind of where we're going to slide right into the second unit. Looking at the second unit as it is right now, who do you got as your 5, the second unit?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I was looking at some numbers too. So Jordan Poole, he did play point guard pretty frequently with the Warriors last year. He played 64% at the point guard position, 36% of the shooting guard percentage in 2023. 36% of the time he played shooting guard last year. So he did play a lot of point. But yeah, I mean, I could see, I could see if they do make some trades or the injuries happen all the time. Knock on wood, but there may be some nights where Jordan Poole is starting at the point, Corey's at the 2, Denny's at the 3, Kuz is at the 4, Gaff's at the 5. I could certainly see that with Tyus coming off the bench, DeLon coming off the bench. I could see that happening some nights. Corey's played small forward a lot for the Wizards, and it kind of reminds me like when we had KCP at small forward. Corey played 58% of the time last year. Corey played at small forward, 38% of the shooting guard position. And then Denny played a lot of small forward last year. 62% of the time he played at the small forward position. Then 30% of the time he played at the power forward position, which I think I think he's better suited at the 4. And I think if he came off the bench, he would play at the 4. He could be that point forward. But yeah, I like your lineup of Poole, Kispert if he does start at the point guard, and then Denny would be your 3, so you would have defense there. And then at the 4 would be Kuz, and then at the 5 would be Gaff. Off the bench for me right now, it is a little muddy right now. There's a log jam because right now I just don't know what's going to happen with Gallo. Jake Fisher reported a buyout. That still hasn't happened. There's been reports about him being packaged in the Dame Lillard trade like you brought up, where we could be that 13. We could just offload him to the Heat or the Blazers, whoever, possibly just get a second-round pick or something like that back. Same thing with Shamet. But, the days keep going by. The season is still long. They could be traded at the trade deadline, or they could get the Al Horford treatment in OKC where they're just like, hey, we just want you to sit out, and we're just going to let the young guys play. So that could happen. Mike Muscala still on the roster. He may play. He did play in OKC, so he has a little bit of connection with Will Dawkins and some familiarity. So I could see him come off the bench. But if it were up to me and we trade those guys off the bench, would be, of course, DeLon would be the point guard. Corey would be your 2 behind. If he doesn't start, Corey would be my 2, and then Bilal would be my 3, and then at 4 would be I think I put down Patrick Baldwin would be my 4 man. He would be my power forward. That's if Gallo's not there, and that's if Denny does start at the 3. And then my backup 5 would be Tristian Vukcevic. So the 5 would be DeLon, Johnny, Bilal, Pat Baldwin, and then Vukcevic would be my 5.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, we're looking at the second unit. Obviously, second unit leader, man, is gonna be DeLon. That's the guy. That's kind of how he rolled last year, and that's the role that fits him, man. 2 guard. As it stands right now, I'm playing Shamet at 2. Now, if they move him, obviously you want to see Kispert at the 2, and then he'll be backed up by Johnny Davis. But as it stands right now, I would have to put Shamet at the 2, and then slide Kispert at the 3. At the 4, as of right now, Gallo. But if we move him, then I would like to see Patrick Baldwin get those minutes. And then at the 5, obviously Muscala, is kind of up in the air if Vukcevic stays, does he get a buyout over in Serbia? How that works out, but right now, Muscala would be that guy. Now, if Vukcevic gets that buyout and we indeed move on from Muscala, then I can see Vukcevic starting to get the 5. But it's kind of tough to really dictate that now, because it's so much uncertainty with the second unit. You got the 3 guys who, I think that out of the 3 guys on the second unit, Shamet and Gallo have the most trade value. Now, Muscala, I think he could be thrown in there as kind of a salary filler, but I can see him easily being bought out too. So it's tough to really do the second unit because you got so much uncertainty. You got guys who are on, veteran guys who are on expiring contracts who are kind of in the way of younger guys that need work. But even then, if Gallo stays, I'm not too upset because I do kind of think, looking at Patrick Baldwin, he's got potential. But I kind of think that he needs to start the year out with the go, get some significant minutes down there, like kind of what like they did with Johnny. Give him significant minutes and go from there. Because I'm intrigued to see if we can get the value up for Gallo. Coming off an ACL injury, maybe his value is not as high. So maybe we can try to get these guys value up and then try to move them before, at the deadline, before the deadline. Because injuries happen, especially with contending teams. So these guys can fit on a contending team and be some depth. So that's kind of where I'm at. I agree with you. It's just it's tough. It's tough to dictate that, man, because you've got so much uncertainty in the second unit. So
yeah, and I'm looking at the depth chart. So Rollins, he wouldn't be a part of that bench unit. Now, I do think he's gonna get playing time. I think he's gonna get the Jordan Goodwin treatment, where he's gonna be that third point guard off the bench because he's played pretty well in the summer league. He's shown that he can get to the basket. He can create for others. He had the game where he had 5 steals, 9 assists, and 19 points. So he showed the shiftiness and the craftiness. Quentin Jackson, we didn't bring him up. I do think he's going to get some playing time here and there. Anthony Gill, we'll see what happens with him and overseas. Xavier Cook, same thing. Is he going to be on the roster this year? We'll see about that. And then Eugene, we just brought him up. Another comparison I thought about Eugene is a little watching him play. He looks like Grant Williams a little bit. I think kind of a 3 player too. I can see that. And then Vukcevic. Now, yes, I do. If they are trying to start off the season, trying to win some games and get some guys value up, of course, I think Shamet would be the guy off the bench, right behind Jordan Poole. So it would be DeLon. If you're going the veteran way and they are trying to win games, because I think we can be similar to what the Jazz did last year, where the Jazz won more games than what they were supposed to start off. So yes, it would be DeLon behind Tyus. Then Shamet would be behind Jordan Poole. Then Corey would be behind Denny at the 3. And then at the 4, Gallo would be behind Kuzma, and then Muscala would be behind Gafford. So that the bench unit, the bench 5 would be DeLon, Shamet, and then I didn't even bring up Bilal. Bilal's got to get a minute. He's got to get minutes too. So where does he fit in? In the rotation, and we'll talk about that in another episode. That's just showing that we have such a log jam, and so many guys on the roster right now. We have about 17 guys on the roster, so of course they got to cut that down and figure out minutes for guys. But where does Bilal fit in? If Corey's going to play at the 3 and then Shamet's going to play at the 2, and then you still got Gallo on the roster and Muscala on the roster, where does Bilal fit in that bench 5? So the bench unit that I named with the young guys, I think that would be more ideal for the rebuild, so you can evaluate and see the guys that you got.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one, man. I do not envy the coaching staff and general manager, who set up the depth chart, man, because they have a lot of moving pieces in the second unit. So we're next we're gonna talk about Summer League, man, and how these young guys did in Summer League. But before we do, my man Ed's gonna talk to us about FanDuel today.
Yes, sir. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over under to who you think is going to the first home run, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $2,000 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. Also, they do have Summer League basketball in there. You can bet on Summer League basketball as well. I'm definitely going to put a couple wagers on there for some of the games tonight, and I'll probably wager on the Wizards when they play on Fridays. One thing, you guys, for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Now, every dayers, we will be reacting to the game on Friday, and then they probably will have an extra game, so we'll be reacting to that. So stay tuned for those episodes.
Yes, sir. So we're gonna dive right into Summer League, man. Looking at some stats real quick at Johnny Davis, Bilal Coulibaly, and Tristian Vukcevic. Johnny Davis is averaging around 14 a game, 5.7 rebounds, 2.5 assists, and 2 steals. But he is shooting around 36% from the field, 30% from three. But surprisingly, he's shooting 100% from free throw. Looking at Bilal Coulibaly, 10 points a game, 5 rebounds, about 1.5 assists, and 1.5 blocks. And he shoot about 37.5% from the field, but 10% from three. So he definitely needs to work, and 50% from free throw. So he definitely needs to work on that. And finally, looking at Tristian Vukcevic, he's averaging around 10.7 points a game, 6 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 1.5 blocks while shooting 42% from the field, but 22% from three. So looking at these three young guys, what have you liked about their game in Summer League, and what do you think they need to improve on going forward?
Yeah, so I guess right now, Bilal, I wouldn't look at his percentages. We kind of knew coming in that he wasn't going to be a good three-point shooter. Didn't shoot the three well, really, when he played with Victor Wembanyama overseas before he came. The shot is very slow, so it's got a long way to go. But just looking at the feel of the game, him being a ball handler, pick and roll ball handler, I thought he did some good things. And right now, defense is going to be his calling card. So he's definitely going to play and get playing time, because I talked about the 10 guys. Right now, he's definitely going to play, whether he's going to play the 2 guard or be a small forward or a 4. He's so interchangeable and versatile defensively. I think he can guard 1 through 4 and maybe at times 1 through 5. So that's going to be his calling card. You see the blocks, you see the chase down blocks, you see the blocks off the backboard where he's glassing guys, you see the dunks, you see the putbacks and just how athletic he is. But yes, the offensive game, the handle still needs some work. But right now, you're 10% from the three. It's pretty darn bad. That's pretty darn bad. And some of the misses have been way off. They've been air balls. They've been off the side of the rim. So the developmental staff has a long way to go. But the field goal percentage is concerning too. He definitely should be finishing better than what he is. Still skinny. We talked about that. The weight and the body mass and his body frame. He is a small, skinny guy. So he's definitely going to live in a weight room this summer after Summer League. And he's got to finish a little bit better than what he has around the rim and just be a little bit more aggressive. But you see the tools, you see the potential when the flashes are really, really good and the lows are really low at times. So I've liked what I've seen for the most part. But yes, he definitely has. He definitely has, a lot of things to work on out there. And I like the flashes have been really, really good for him. Looking at Johnny's shooting percentages. Let me put the numbers again, because they haven't been good at all. And it's been taking him, for him to get 15 points, he has to shoot the ball 15 times. For him to get 20 points, he has to shoot the ball 20 times. And he's got to be better than that. I do like the confidence. So 36% from the field is not good. 30% from the three is not good. 100% from the free throw line is good. I thought he's made some good passes, but he's still kind of hesitating from the 3-point line. Way more confident from the Summer League last year, but that's a low bar because he struggled in the Summer League a lot last year. But he's rebounding the ball well, 5 boards a game. Same thing with Bilal. He's rebounding the ball pretty well, 5 boards a game, 1.7 blocks per game. That's really, really good. He's averaging 2 blocks per game with Bilal. Bilal is, so that's awesome. But Johnny, he's leading the team in scoring, but the efficiency has to pick up. He's getting 2 steals a game, so that just shows the defensive prowess that he has. He's been a good defender. He's been picking up the other team's best player at times in the Summer League as well. So those are some good things. I think he can be a defensive anchor. Not an anchor, but he can be a good defensive player for the Wizards coming up this season. Maybe he can try to take on somewhat of a Josh Hart type of role for the team coming off the bench. I think he can try to do something similar to that. Maybe, I feel like a Josh Hart kind of role. I feel like he can definitely try to do that to start off his career until he gets his offensive game up to speed, because he's still not getting by guys. He's still not creating separation on the offensive side of the ball. He's still missing open threes. He's still struggling from the mid-range with his touch and feel around the mid-range game right now. Then moving on to Tristian, 10 points a game, 6 boards, rebound the ball well. He's scoring around the rim pretty well, 1.3 blocks a game. That's pretty good. 42% from the field. We would want him to have a better percentage than that, being a big man. Like I said, I don't want to look too much into Summer League stats, but 22% from the three is not good. He's a better three-point shooter than that. 88% from the free throw line is really good. But he's good in transition. So all these guys, they have some room to work on. They're all young. And we know it's going to take some time with Bilal. We know Tristian is a second-round pick who is playing better than a couple first-round picks out there. I think he's playing pretty good ball, but he still has a long way to go on the defensive side of the ball. And I think the three-point shot will come along.
Yeah, I agree on all points, man. I think that you see the potential in all three, but they all need work. And obviously they're all in different timelines. Obviously, Johnny Davis, second-year guy, you're kind of looking for more from him. Man, as you see the score with Johnny is just he's not efficient. He's not efficient. He's shooting a lot of low percentage shots, a lot of ill-advised shots. He's forcing a lot of shots. He needs to work on his offensive side of the ball. Defensively, elite, no, but very above average. Good instincts, especially stealing the ball, pressure, getting people's faces. The defense is there. I love what I see from him defensively. It's just offensively, he's not at the bottom of the barrel offensively. It's just, look, he's not going to get past anybody. So he's got to work on his handles, man. He's got to work on, maybe, not being lightning quick with a first step, but learning how to utilize a first step, how to really, because he's not going to blow past anybody, man. So he's got to be crafty with how he sets himself and puts himself in position to score. So I want to see him kind of work on his game offensively. But look, man, I mean, look, he's young. It's year 2. I'm not going to say it's too late. He still has time. But looking at his draft pick, man, you kind of expect more. We were talking about before the show, man, when you look at guys who are kind of in the same draft class, Benedict Mathurin and Malachi Branham, it just is so much of a talent gap between Johnny and those two guys, man. And it just, when you see them play and how fluid their game is, it's such a big gap. He's got to work on his game. I don't know if I don't want to see him go to Capital City Go-Go. I think he's done with all that. I want to see him get some playing minutes. But, with the makeup of the roster, how do you get playing minutes for him? First of all, it's tricky with him, man. It's really tricky situation for Johnny because, you got Shamet, you got Corey Kispert, you got guys in front of him, man. So where are you going to find playing minutes? It's going to be crafty. Looking at Bilal, look, defensively, he's on point, man. I mean, the rundown blocks, the instincts, both of them, their instincts are on point defensively. It's just offensively, he's trying to do too much. I think he has good form. His shot release has to be quicker. He's got to drive more. He's got to drive the lane more. He's very hesitant at times. He's got to drive. He's got to drive the lane. So that's kind of what I want to see from Bilal. And Vukcevic, man, he's defensively, he's not working for nothing. He shows a lot of energy on the defensive end. You see he can spread the floor. It's just he's got to work on his touch. I think he needs to add a little more trajectory to his shot because it's kind of a flatter shot, man. And with him, his release is too quick. He's shooting it quick, and he doesn't have a lot of trajectory in that shot. So I think he needs to kind of work with somebody and get a little bit of air on that shot a little bit, and I think it'd be all right, man. But all three of them, I don't think they're scrubs. I don't think they're busts. I think they're young guys who have a lot of upside, but they need work. And so, this development staff, man, they have a lot of work ahead of them for these 3 young guys. But I think that all 3, and then, I know a lot of people are down on Johnny Davis right now, but I think all 3 can be jewels in the rough, man. They can be diamonds in the rough. I think they are because Johnny is just, look, we know what he can't do. He's not, the speed ain't there. He's not blowing past anybody. But if he learns to be crafty as an offensive guy, I think he'll be all right as a scorer in this league. He's got to be more efficient, man. He's got to be more efficient. Especially if you look at his roster, man, look, Kuzma and Poole are going to shoot a lot of shots. So we need some efficiency overall because we know there's going to be a lot of shots between those two. So as far as Johnny, man, it's his development, man, he's got to be more efficient. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of potential. I don't think they're busts, but, the work has to go both ways. The development staff has a lot on their hands. But as far as personal standpoint with these players, these guys have a lot of work to do. So they have to be willing to go out there and put that work in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the defensive side of the ball, you see there's some plays where he looks like a corner or a safety out there where he's getting in the passing lanes, where he's just the foot speed, where he's covering ground, where he's getting steals. He's been a pest. He's created fast breaks by deflection. Him and Quentin Jackson have done the same thing. So I think I've been really impressed with his defense. That's the thing that's impressed me the most. I didn't know that he averaged 2 steals per game. Just looking at through 3 games, that's pretty darn good. He's probably up there with the summer league leaders in steals. And I think he can do that. I think that's gonna be a way for him to get playing time. Him and DeLon, right? They're probably gonna be one of our better backcourt defenders. So I think that's the best way he can get on the court right now. The explosiveness and the first step, he just doesn't really have it. He's not gonna beat guys off the dribble with his quickness or his explosiveness. We saw Malachi Branham do a couple step through moves, a couple step back threes. I don't see that from Johnny. I don't see any step back threes or anything in his arsenal. It's a methodical, slow kind of game. He has an old school game where at Wisconsin, his best shot was the mid-range shot and isolating guys. And, he's just not going to really get a lot of chances to do that with the Wizards right now, where they're slowing it down and just giving him the ball, and he can just go out there and take a bunch of dribbles. And he's the man on Wisconsin, where here he's going to be different. Where he's going to be coming off the bench. And yeah, he just hasn't been able to find his shot or his touch in the summer league either. But he's getting him up, and I like the confidence, and he's working hard. And I think he's a worker. You bring it up all the time, where his freshman year he averaged like 5 or 7. Sophomore year improved. So I think he's a guy that's going to get improved. He's going to improve. But at the same time, by the time he really finds getting comfortable in the NBA, it may be a little too late. It may be a contract year. And Will Dawkins and Schlenk and Winger, they may have to make a decision because they didn't draft him. So that's just my take on Johnny right now.
Yeah, lots of potential, but work is needed, man. So we're gonna go ahead and call it there, everybody. Definitely appreciate everybody. Again, tomorrow night, Friday night, is it 5 or 5:30?
I want to say 5. We'll see if Chet plays or not.
Got you. 5 o'clock. The 4th summer league game for the Washington Wizards. So we're gonna see how these young guys do. But again, lots of potential, but work is needed in the 202. So thank you everybody for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. Every day is again tomorrow. We're gonna recap this 4th summer league game. So definitely everybody tune in, like, subscribe, comment below. Let us know what you guys think. Anywhere you get your podcast, 5-star review is much appreciated. So hail to the Wizards and peace, everybody. Have a good day, Gary.